Easily one of the most anticipated shows of the spring 2022 anime season is Spy X Family. Let's face it, this has got the highest popularity on most charts right now, so a lot of people are excited about this series. I think it's got a lot of attention around its source material. Additionally, having both Wit Studio and Cloverworks working on this series, again, producing a lot of hype. And I think it's great to know that we already have essentially 2 cores announced for this particular season. Of course, a split core, so the second half will be later on this year, but it's still exciting to know there's a lot of content here to work with, and there's a little excitement behind it. But yes, I've already watched the first episode of the series, and I'm super excited to talk about it, so let's jump right into it. For those unfamiliar with Spy X Family, we essentially have 2 nations, Westalis and Ostania, and there seems to be a truce between these 2 nations, but unfortunately, behind the backgrounds, there's a lot of espionage and stuff happening to create some sort of war between the 2 nations. Well, we have essentially spies that are working in the background to kind of keep that under wraps. And one particular one that is very well known by those that know, obviously being a spy, is codenamed Twilight. And as we find out, this Donovan Desmond is this guy that's essentially trying to create this conflict between these 2 nations. Twilight is hired to essentially go in and try to find out information about this particular guy. Well, the problem is that this guy doesn't really go out in the public much. They say that the only place that he actually goes publicly is to these gatherings for their child's school. So Twilight is ordered to not only get a child, but a wife in order to infiltrate this school to get some sort of information out of Donovan. Which is shocking to Twilight because he's never had any aspiration to have children or family of any sort because he's a spy. He kind of discarded that life behind in order to be a solo person that has no face, no name, or nothing to him. Shoot, he's also really kind of known for the fact that he has hundreds of faces that he can take on. His ability to disguise himself is sort of his thing. So after accepting this mission, he goes to an orphanage to find a child, and he comes across a girl named Anya. Seems like she was the only one in this entire orphanage that can read and write, which is going to be a requirement in order to do the exams to get into the school. Well, things aren't quite what they seem, as Anya is able to read minds, so she quickly knows that Twilight, or Lloyd now, is actually a spy, and she quickly starts reading his mind and finding out that he's a spy, that he's working on a mission, and she gets excited, and she wants to be this guy's next child so that she can join in with this whole thing. So she reads his mind in order to do this whole crossword puzzle really quickly, and sure enough, he accepts and takes her on as his child. And as it goes along, Anya gets into his equipment, ends up sending out some sort of call to this group that previously Lloyd had worked against. They kidnap her, he fights against them, tries to get rid of her, but she kind of sneaks back into his life, and it continues on as she does the exam, passes it, and then finds out that the second part of the entire entrance exam is to do a family interview, which would include his wife that he doesn't quite have yet. So I'm assuming that's going to be the next big thing they'll get into with the second episode. So yeah, my thoughts on this first episode, absolutely fantastic. I think the pacing felt a little fast, but I don't really mind it so much because they have to kind of get in with the chemistry. I think pulling in Anya as quick as possible was essential for my enjoyment of the show because I think the chemistry is going to be where it's at. And I kind of had that feeling when I was checking out the PV for this series, getting an idea of what each of these characters, their personality is like. And again, having Anya in the middle to kind of connect their thought processes. What everybody's keeping a secret, Anya can technically see because she can read minds. And yes, with this first episode, I think Anya was the star. I not just Anya, I do believe there was quite a bit of the more serious side from Lloyd, obviously, or Twilight, because you kind of get an idea that he's just kind of discarded anything normal in his life to be a spy. But what happens is through Anya kind of being with him and her nature, it's pulling something out of him. It's pulling this other side, this old self, back into his life. He kind of mentions that later on in the episode. These are feelings that I felt like I left behind at some point. But he's having them pull back out because of Anya. He recalls when he was very young and he was abandoned and nobody reached out to him. He recalls that thinking, okay, well, that's why I'm so bothered by Anya crying, because I remember when I was abandoned and I cried. He recalls why he became a spy, which was to create peace, to create a world where no children cry. Again, recalling on his past life. It's nothing that's super deep, but at the same time, it's enough for me to really like Lloyd as a character, or Twilight as a character. I'm going to say back and forth. It's Lloyd from now on. It's enough to really characterize him, give him some sort of humanity than just being this cold spy, which I kind of got a hint from with the PV. I figured he would just be the cold spy that's always calculative, and Anya would be jumping off of him and really kind of bouncing comedy off of him. And then you have the introduction of the other character, the wife, and what she would kind of introduce to it. It is interesting to see that they're actually putting more into Anya than I originally thought. They kind of hint when he first adopts her that she was this test subject 007, and that she's been apparently in the orphanage for a year. She's been bounced around to like 4 different families. I think they only mentioned 3 of the families, but they would never mention the third or the last one. So I'm curious if that'll be what family was the 4th one will be something significant. Maybe it'll be tied in with, could be with Donovan. Maybe Donovan had adopted her at some point. I'm curious if it'll be something they'll bring up later. Like it's going out of its way to avoid mentioning the 4th family. But yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure that'll probably be a main plot point later on, that she was this test subject, that she escaped from that place, and it's going to be significant in some way, probably to a later thing that they do. Presentation is very solid so far. I think it looks fantastic. The fight scenes were really, really good. A lot of the more... I like that it's not really trying too hard to be serious. It obviously has a serious tone. There are people being killed here and there. But for the most part, at least with the involvement of Lloyd, it's not really getting too graphic and too violent. I think it's trying to keep like a very bubble, funny, comedy action type feeling. So I don't think it wants to get too serious. And I think that's a good state at its end, because I really do like the chemistry so far with Lloyd and Anya. A lot of their interactions were really, really sweet and really, really fun. It's kind of jumping back and forth between the goofy nature of Anya and how she reacts to Lloyd, like this whole super secret spy aspect, and how she's getting really sucked into it because she likes spies for some reason, and how he's always calculating the situation and she's responding to it. It's hilarious. He's like, okay, this is bad because I'm having to hold her hand and that's putting me in danger, and then she freaks out going, oh no, there's danger, and she goes and hides. It seems like it's one-sided, but it's not really. And I think that's the key thing there. He's overthinking things in a spy way. She's reading that, she's responding to it, and then he's responding to her response. So it's communication through a one-sided read, but it's communication nonetheless. And I also think the other thing that I really like about Lloyd and Anya's chemistry so far is it really does seem like Anya wants to help. Yes, there's the goofy, spy stuff kind of mentality that she has, very childlike mentality about spies and her grandiose thoughts of what a spy should be. She says at some point, he's boring. I didn't expect this from a spy. It's still nice that it has a little bit of hint in there that she wants to help Lloyd. And that was a playoff when it came to that whole scenario where he's talking about how his one hand is being held by her, so it makes it to where he can't defend himself well enough from enemies. She freaks out and tries to hide because she's afraid of the enemies. But additionally, when he says that he wants to, learn more about her because it's part of his mission and a part of this whole idea of having world peace, she immediately jumps out and wants to tell him everything about herself. It plays off that idea that she wants to do everything she can in order to assist this spy that she's really into. And it kind of hinted a little bit at when it had this brief flashback of Anya at this facility that created her, and the idea that they wanted her to learn some things and stuff that she needed to do her best for world peace. So it does play a little bit on the idea that whatever she's involved with, what she was created for, obviously has some sort of connection with some sort of mission for world peace. And again, her kind of desire to join in with that aspect, which, I mean, yes, most kids want world peace. It's not a stretch or anything like that, but it still plays a little bit in the idea that she's going to try her hardest to fit in with what he needs. And additionally, when he did the exam, or when she did the exam, in her mindset was all the stuff that he was instilling upon her because she had to succeed. She had to do this thing for his mission. I think that's really, really cute. Realizing that she was a crossword puzzle a fluke. She's really dumb. I need to take her back. And she's like, no, don't take me back. So bad. I also love when he kind of tells her, you have to make sure you tell people we've always been a family. And so sure enough, the first person they run into, she's like, he's been my papa for a long time. It's like, that was kind of not how I wanted you to put it. But like I said, it's really cute. I love the interactions between these two characters already. It's like the chemistry is already really solid. Like the writing for the chemistry is already extremely solid. And so that has me really excited to how the wife of this whole picture will kind of add into it, and what kind of chemistry will kind of come from that. Because yes, having it really one-sided with just the two of them will probably get old after a while, but I think having the three of them is going to add a really great chemistry. And this was something that I was really shocked by, because when I first read the synopsis for the series, I figured it was just going to be, here's these three characters, they have their secrets, they're going to have a relationship. What I didn't know was that when I watched the PV a few weeks ago, that Anya was a mind reader. And I think that adds like just this really great writing that's going to do some really fun stuff later on. Because everybody's keeping their secret, but she's the one that's able to see it. but she can't tell people that she can see it because then that reveals her secret. So everybody has a secret, but she can see the other secrets. But anyways, that has me super, super excited for next week. I probably will cover this show on a weekly basis. I really just feel like it's going to be a fun one to talk about, but we'll see how things turn out. But that's my thoughts on Spy X Family. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, or if you're going to be checking it out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I cover all the shows of the season. I will be doing episode-by-episode impressions for certain shows, as well as anime news coverage and other topics. I hope you guys will join me for that. As always, if you want to support us, additionally, we have a Patreon and tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.